Hey everyone, welcome back to Taiwanica podcast. 你现在在收听的我的 podcast. Thanks for hanging out with me today, everybody. If you're new here, this is the place where we talk about life between Taiwan and the world. Talking about topics like work, relationship, self-growth, but in a real way, not the Instagram version. Today's topic is something I wish someone explained to me like 10 years ago. Okay, presence as a skill that actually gets worse if you don't practice it. I'm not talking about something like a Zen monk where they're on top of a mountain, shaved head, and they're meditating, going Om all day. If you're one of those people, welcome to the show. Just being here when life is happening. We're going to keep it super practical, and I'll show you some answers about some things I've seen, and also one question that I will answer that I saw on D card at the end of the show. And that question is, 为什么我跟朋友、家人在一起时，还是常常的觉得不在状况内? Or in English, why do I feel absent when I'm physically with people I care about? So let's jump in. Let's talk about what people think present is first. When you hear be present, what picture pops up in your mind? For a lot of people, it's something like, sitting perfectly still, no thoughts, totally focused on one thing. Maybe very peaceful, very cool, or like super chill, man. This is all related to stuff like meditation. In English, we might say like a quiet mind or an undisturbed attention. In Chinese, you might hear 要活在当下. But nobody really explains how. Most of us treat presence like a personality trait. We think some people are just naturally calm, focused, good listeners, and for the rest of us, we are just scrolling on our phones all the time. But that's not what's really going on, okay? Presence is a skill. It's not a personality trait. It's something that we can train, kind of like physical fitness. So if in Taiwan, we all understand this because a lot of us go exercising, a lot of us go walking. Taiwan's great for all of these kind of activities, go climbing mountains. And if you stop going to doing one of these things after doing it for a long period of time, what happens, right? Your muscles get weaker, your TD drops, your stamina gets down. Maybe you still look okay, yeah, but you can definitely feel the difference. Presence is exactly the same. As you would say in Chinese, 用一次就强一点，放置不用就慢慢退步. When your problem is your body is getting weaker, you can see it and even feel it. Here's the thing about presence, though, is that when your presence gets weaker, it's practically invisible, so hard to notice unless you have a very keen sense of awareness. You don't wake up and say, oh, wow, my presence really degraded like 20% this week. It's not a track record that you could see on a business bar scale or something like that. You only notice it in situations like this. For example, you finish dinner with a friend and realize you can't remember half of the conversation. Or you sit through a whole meeting and later think, wait, what did we just decide? You scroll your phone on the MRT and suddenly if you're in Taipei, at Taipei 车站, and have no idea what you just passed while you were riding on the train. That's presence slowly disappearing in the background. So let's get a little bit of a twist here of what is the difference between what people might call real and fake presence. Most people have the idea that when you're being present, doing quotes here, being present is actually performing presence. You know this feeling, right? When you're nodding and saying, 对对对对对, I see, and you're making eye contact, but your brain is somewhere else, flying away. You know, in Chinese, you might say, 心里在听，等一下要吃什么？那个讯息还没回。You're looking attentive, you're looking like you're paying attention, but inside your normal background programs are running. The stuff that happened recently, like an argument, a little fight that you had, or what you're preparing to do for the weekend, or you got some work or school stress. That's performed presence. On the outside, you look very 在场, like you're very here right now. On the inside, though, you're gone. Real presence is simple. Your attention and your body are in the same place. That's it. No perfect calm, not zero thoughts, just what is happening on the outside and what your mind is doing on the inside is aligned. That's all there is. So let's go back to what we were talking about with exercise for a moment. The most important thing that I'd like to say about this idea, and if it's the only thing you learned today, try to remember this, okay? Presence is not about staying still. Presence is about noticing when you've left and come back. That return is the practice. That's the exercise. There's a famous quote that I've mentioned before on this show, and I'd love to mention it again because it really resonates with this moment here, by the book The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. He says, if you recognize that you're not being present, you are. That's all it takes. It doesn't take anything else than that. So your mind will leave, and it will do funny things like prepare emails, plan your future, replay what someone said to you last week or last year or 10 years ago, and also think about food a lot of the times. That's not failure, everybody. That's just the normal brain, so we don't have to think about that as something bad. 离开当下不是错，是与事的模式. Okay? This is a normal thing. We don't need to think about it as a bad thing. Here's the skill that we can look at. How fast do you notice that you've left? That's the big thing. It's so important. I'm going to say it one more time. How fast do you notice that you've left? That you're not being present? Does it take a minute? Okay. If it's only a minute, let's talk a little bit more about that. And also, more importantly, how gentle are you to yourself when you return? Let me give you a simple example. You're talking to a friend in a cafe. Let's say, we talked about Taipei earlier. Let's say Taichung. In minute 1, you're really listening. In minute 3, your phone buzzes, or you think of work. Your attention begins to leave the table. At this moment, you got 2 choices, buddy. Number 1, stay gone, keep nodding, pretending you're listening. Yeah,对. Or number 2, notice, oh, I left, and then come back. In your mind, you might say something like, all right, let's come back, or 好，回来. And put your attention back on your friend's face, their voice, their words. That tiny act of simply just saying, oh, I left. Okay, I'm back. 哦，好，我回来了. That is it. That's the training. That's one exercise. Again, different way of doing it. If you do that 30 times in one conversation, you didn't fail 30 times, okay? So be kind to yourself. You're not distracted. Your mind just has a lot of things thinking about. You did 30 little exercises instead, okay? So you're actually getting quite strong in your way of thinking. The person who tries to be perfectly still and maybe has one moment of distraction, well, they did one rep. They did one exercise. So please don't judge yourself for going in different places. The whole point is that if you go to different places in your mind and you come back, That's the whole workout. So congratulations. You're getting stronger every moment you do it. Let's talk about how to actually practice this in daily life. Some people might think, okay, so I need to meditate 1 hour every day. Honestly, if you can, that's great. I love meditation. It's super healthy for you. The science behind meditation, it's literally, it will take you years to go through all of it because there's just so much saying, it's good, do meditation. But for most people, 工作再忙, 我交通时间很长, it's not realistic. Okay, so here's the cool part. 10 seconds of doing this practice many times a day is more powerful than one big session a week. That is absolutely the truth. So we're going to say that one more time because it's so important. 10 seconds, just 10, of practice, many times a day, is more powerful than one big session once a week. So let's imagine two different scenarios. Person A meditates 60 minutes every Sunday. Person B does 10-second check-ins 10 times a day. Person B is actually training presence more often in more real-life situations, like in class or at work, on a bus, at dinner. Presence is a real-time skill. We need it in meetings, in conversations, especially on dates. If you're trying to find somebody, you got to be present. And not just in a meditation, okay? 所以重点不是一次练就多久，而是一天练几次. I feel so like meditative when I say something like that. 而是一天练几次. Wow, almost feel like Po from Kung Fu Panda. Okay, so let's go on to the next part. Let me share another little simple tool that you can start using today. I call it the 10-second check-in. It's something that you can do very easily. I do it all the time whenever I find myself losing my presence. You can do this with a phone. You can do this with a rock in your pocket. You can do this with pretty much anything as a reminder. Like sometimes women like to paint one of their fingernails a different color. Guys maybe will wear a ring on their finger. It really doesn't matter what you do, but just create a reminder system that's easy for you to follow. And if you do, let's say the phone example, you put up a couple of alarms on your phone, like 10 a.m., 1:30, 4 o'clock, these kind of times. And then the label can simply be on the alarm, where am I? Okay. When the reminder rings or when you see the thing that reminds you, just pause for 10 seconds. 真的就是10秒而已哦. Ask yourself two questions. You close your eyes, ask yourself the question, where am I? 现在我在哪里? You open your eyes and say, am I here? And the answer will always be yes. Okay, close your eyes. Where am I? Open, I am here. Or am I here? Got to confirm. If you confirm with those two questions, instantly you are present. Here's a couple of examples we can do here. You're at your desk, the reminder rings, or you notice your reminder. You notice it, and you're already in the middle of your work, or you're half in an argument online, or you're in the middle of a conversation that's getting really tough to be in with your boss or with your coworker, and you simply say in your mind, 好，回来工作, or hey, let's get back to work. Take one deep breath. Look clearly at one thing in front of you, whatever it is in front of you. It could be a person, it could be a thing, and just simply ask those questions. Close your eyes, kind of like you're blinking. Where am I? Open your eyes. Am I here? So let's do another one. You're on the MRT, scrolling your phone. All of a sudden you notice your reminder. Ooh, so maybe my attention is here. Let's check. Eyes closed. Where am I? Open my eyes. Am I here? And you just realize that you were lost in random short videos from, Instagram or YouTube or somewhere for the last 10 minutes and didn't even realize you were scrolling. So, next time you feel like that, you just, for next 10 or so seconds, you can look around the MRT, feel your feet on the floor, whatever might make you feel really good and, 看窗户的外面, and see what's out there. That's one practice. All right, let's do one last one. You're having a dinner with your family, and then all of a sudden you notice the reminder. It rings, or you notice on your fingers or in your pocket that there it is, and asking yourself again, closing your eyes like a blink. Where am I? Open your eyes. Am I here? And then all of a sudden you decide not to put your phone down, and you look around towards your family, and all of a sudden you're having more attention on the conversation than you ever had before. That's just one little practice that you can do. So once again, remember, you do not need to have an empty mind. You don't need to sit in a funky yoga pose. And you definitely don't need to be super calm. I mean, it's great if you do be calm and you do sit well. I mean, they help, but they are not necessary for you to practice this. You just need to notice where your attention is, and then choose. Do I want to keep doing what I'm doing, or do I choose to be present? Okay, so let's connect this to real life here in Taiwan. Think about a typical day, squeezed in the MRT in the early morning, or classes or work meetings, lunches with colleagues or classmates, more screen time in the afternoon to calm down, maybe cram school, side projects, or, our favorite, overtime. And then finally, maybe doing some Netflix, a little here, a little YouTube there, a little scrolling before bed, the routine. Almost every moment has a screen, a notification, or some kind of noise. I mean, good God. It's a lot of attention that you have to put into one day. Now, let me just say this. It's none of this is bad. I'm not trying to give it a bad rep, but this is reality in most days for most of us now. 科技没有错，问题是我们怎么用。Okay, it's not that this stuff is bad, it's just how we use it that we need to check. But here's what happens if you never train presence. Okay, let's look at a person that never does this. You get used to splitting your attention. That's what we call in English sharding. Sharding is like if you have a mirror and then you whack it with like a ball or a bat or something like a rock, and then it doesn't break the mirror entirely, but now it's in a bunch of little pieces. So it looks like there's like 100 of you in the mirror instead of one of you. That's sharding and splitting. And that's what happens to your attention inside of your mind. It's turning into a bunch of little yous all the time. So you feel tired, obviously, when that happens, even though you're not doing any physical work, because your normal activities like conversations or paying attention feels really, really blurry or 模糊. So let's say you go on a nice trip, maybe to Hualien or Xiaoliuqiu, and later your memory is mostly photos, not actual moments that you were there. This is a kind of example that you can see for someone who never trains it, okay? So presence doesn't suddenly disappear. I want that to be clear. It's not something that just poof, it's gone. It's something that slowly disappears, like muscles. And when you realize it when someone says something like you're always on your phone, or your partner says to you, 你人在这里，可是真的不在. Okay. Something like that, it feels like you're here physically, but it doesn't feel like you're actually present with me. You suddenly are going to start to notice that you can't listen to someone for more than 20 seconds without checking your screen or something like that. That's a clear sign that your presence is starting to degrade and become less. It's not dramatic, but just something that's less and less going to be the ability for you to enjoy this moment. So what happens if you do practice? Let's talk about the benefits. Let's be honest about what this doesn't do first, though, okay? Practicing presence is not turning you into a super calm person overnight. Like, you're not going to become Buddha in one day. I mean, you could, but chances are slim. And it's not going to stop your mind from wandering. The mind loves to wander. It's what it does. And it makes you love every boring meeting. Okay, you think you're going to love every meeting you're in just because you're present? I mean, you could. better have a really good job. 这不是什么神器的外挂, okay? This isn't something about you trying to open up a new dimension of life. It's something that you always have. You're just becoming more aware of it. Let's talk about what it does do, though, over a few weeks. The time between leaving and noticing is going to get shorter. Okay, so you're going to have an easier time catching yourself. And then after you might wake up, you're going to start noticing that you're going to have habits that take you away from being present. And that's usually something like, 30 minutes of scrolling, or an hour-long meeting, or the whole entire MRT ride to your job. Okay, those are moments where you're noticing you're not actually here, and you're catching yourself better. But then, a few weeks later, with the 10-second check-in of opening and closing your eyes, you'll notice after maybe 2 minutes of scrolling. Or instead of the whole entire meeting, you'll catch yourself zoning out only 20 seconds into a conversation. Or you might wake up halfway through the MRT ride and decide to look around. It will start to get shorter. And that's the idea of this whole entire exercise. Okay, so the shorter the gap is the real progress. 觉知变快就是进步. Okay. Now, this shows up in the important moments. Things like if you're in a job interview, and you notice your brain is starting to panic, oh boy. And you can come back to your breath and the question without losing it in your head. Whoa, look at that. That's going to be really helpful. And now what about this? You're with your parents, instead of retreating into your phone, like hiding with the scrolling, and you notice you choose to engage, and wow, you actually make an impact, and you're no longer having weird conversations with mom and dad that make you feel uncomfortable. Nice. Okay. Well, what about this? You're working on something important, and you catch the urge to switch to Instagram every 2 minutes. Oh, not too good. But now, because of this presence practice, you're noticing you don't. You're trying to notice that you're taking time away from the apps when you're trying to spend important time moving forward with your projects in your life. The practice is small. Okay, it doesn't take much, but what it does, it protects you, your relationships, your attention, and most importantly, your time. That's not small. Okay, let's answer that Descartes style question. 为什么我们跟朋友、家人在一起时，还是常常觉得自己不在状况呢? Oh, that's 状况内 at the end there. So in English, once again, that is, why do I feel absent even when I'm physically with people I care about? This is super common, especially now. There are 3 big reasons. Number 1, you're performing presence, not practicing presence. You're trying to look engaged by smiling, nodding, saying, or hey, something like that. But your attention is still on whatever it is that's in your mind, your phone, your worries, your to-do list. So try this next time. If you can, and it takes a lot of courage the first time, I know, put your phone screen down and away from the table. Feel your feet on the ground. Open your eyes, close your eyes. Check where you are. And if you can look at the person too, it helps a lot. Tell yourself something like this. 先把注意力放回来10秒就好. First place your attention back in the presence for 10 seconds. That's it. Start small. Your brain is not stuck in the background, okay? So we got to understand something here with this point. If you always multitask, watching videos while eating is a really big one. Replying to messages during class, or working with 10 tabs open. I'm a big person that does that, by the way. Your brain gets used to feeling like you're never going to be fully aware here. Okay, there's going to always be something distracting you. So when you try to be present, it feels uncomfortable, even empty. You might think, oh, this is boring, or oh my God, something is wrong. In reality, nothing is wrong, okay? It's just your mind's gotten so used to that. You're not used to doing single tasking. Yes, that is a word. You know, probably have heard of multitask many times, but there is such a thing called single tasking, and it's more important to learn how to do that. So here's a suggestion. During one meal a day, try no phone for the first 5 minutes. Just eat, taste, and listen to whoever is with you. Notice how your body feels when you do that. The urges that say, let's go look at the phone or do something else. No, just bring it right back and just enjoy what you're doing for 5 minutes. See what happens. Last, and I cannot stress this enough. Don't judge yourself when you're doing this. For example, why can't I be more focused? Or I'm such a bad friend, child, partner, mom, dad. This is actually not helping you. Okay, so it's good. We don't want to do this because it's just pulling you more out of presence when you say stuff like this to yourself. Okay, so instead, you can say something like this. Oh, 我又发呆了，没关系，回来. You know, oh, I spaced out for a second. That's okay. Let's just come back. That's just another practice. Okay, no judgment. If you hear your head saying that, you know, your head's going to judge, but do you need to agree with it? No. You can choose to say, hey, that was just a practice. Okay. So when you do that, especially with people you care about, over time, they will feel the difference. And if they feel the difference, you will also feel the difference. All right. We're getting close to the end here. Let's make this very concrete and easy for you to practice. So one more time here, there's a simple 3-step that I want you to do for the next 7 days. Okay. If you are willing to do this, you will see over just 7 days a huge difference. So pick 2 of the situations I said here that make sense to you. Practice this during lunch, either with your colleagues, classmates, or family. Another one, finish 10 minutes after you get home. Okay, so as soon as you get home, set up a time for you to do this. Or on one MRT ride per day. Or just simply during one conversation with someone important to you. Okay, just make a note, choose those 2, even write them down if you have a pencil or pen in front of you right now, or make a note in your phone. Okay, if you do this, then we can say something like, 心里先选2个情境就好. Okay, that's all you need. You just need to have 2, and you'll start to see the difference. So, what we said here is, do we really want to do this? Because if this is something that's interesting to you, then I would say that is something you have a desire to do. And if you do this, most of the time, you'll start to see that there's an effect that's way bigger than you can imagine right now. Okay, we are life, and life is presence. You have never done anything in life, like actually done something like an action in the future, nor in the past. You've always done it in the present moment. You can think about things in the past and the future, but you're not doing anything. Okay, so thinking is not doing. So if you want to do more, being present is what matters. So to wrap up, presence is a skill. Okay, not a personality trait. It gets weaker over time. So let's get back strong, like back in the gym we go. And most of us are doing what we call performance presence. We look like we're here, but we're somewhere else. So the real practice isn't trying to stay perfectly still like a yogi. It's more about doing tiny little check-ins, 10-second check-ins on a frequent basis to see how things are going. Okay, so, you know, like 在捷运上，在办公室里, you know, 在家里的餐桌旁边, you know, whatever it is, wherever you are, if you do it for 7 days, I'd love to hear how it goes for you. So, you know, last thing I'll say in Chinese is, 我可以想一下, you know, 今天有哪一个情况,你是真的要做这个吗? If you're really asking yourself these kind of questions, then one moment will change you in a very big way. So thanks for spending time with me with this and actually being here. 我们下次见，拜拜。Thank you so much for listening to today's podcast. If you really enjoyed it, then if you can be one of the very few people who can give us a 5-star review and even tell us about what you liked about the podcast, that would be great if you could do that in the place where you're listening. 谢谢大家。如果你真的很喜欢今天的 podcast 的话，请你们给我们5颗星。这个会让更多人越来越了解台湾要给什么的资料，让他们的生活越来越顺利。感谢。